I'd like to call the meeting to order. We're running late due to technical difficulties, as you all know. And Jay, would you please read the statement?
Yes. So in accordance with an act to implement provisions necessary to the health, welfare, and safety of the citizens of Maine in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency, as enacted to read section G1 MRSA subsection 403A, public proceedings through remote access during declaration of state of emergency due to COVID-19. This business meeting is being held virtually through Zoom. The meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the maranacook.org YouTube channel. Due to the change in the format of this Board of Directors meeting, please be aware that during the course of this meeting, the microphones of the viewing public will be muted except during the identified portions of public comments at this meeting. For today's agenda, this is item number 3. Part of this meeting is also for the budget and citizen comment, is for the budget and citizen comment can be made at item 9B. There is a chat feature in Zoom, but we will not be utilizing this feature for the meeting. If you have questions or comments, we respectfully ask that you contact the central office or email the superintendent or any other board member, and an answer will be provided as soon as possible. We ask for the public's patience during this highly unusual circumstances. Thank you, everyone. So we're going to do all attendance and votes will be done through roll call. When your name is called, please cast your vote with the 3 available options of yes, approve, no, disapprove, or abstain. So at this point, I'm going to do a roll call for all board members. Please make sure that you have your audio turned up and that you can hear us and we can hear you. Having said that, here I will start with Kim out in Manchester.
I am here.
Wendy.
Present.
Dane. I believe he is absent tonight. Kathy.
Here.
Melissa.
Here.
Alex.
Here.
Great. Patty.
Here.
Rebecca.
Here.
Betty.
Here.
Sean.
Here.
Harry.
Here.
Oh, there he is. David.
Here.
Excellent. Wendy, I will turn the meeting back over to you.
Okay, great. I would like to open the nominations for board chair. I'd like to start, I have a nomination. I would like to nominate Kathy Jacobs for board chair.
Second.
Who was that?
Can I ask who seconded? Because we heard 2 voices at the same time.
Missy said second.
So did Rebecca. So pick one.
Right.
Are there any other nominations? All right then. Kathy, would you like to say a little something about why you feel you are a good choice for the board chair?
I will say a few words. First of all, thank you for considering me for this position. I appreciate that support. And my experience as an educational leader, as well as my 5 years on this board, have really given me opportunities to gain the skills needed to facilitate a diverse group. I'm a goal-focused, solution-oriented person, and I strongly believe in order to achieve goals and come up with good solutions that we have to deeply listen to each other and be collaborative. And I value relationships and connections that enable people who work together to really work together effectively. I think it's important to have connections that we can move forward. But I also embrace productive conflict, and I welcome all points of view because I think it's important to hear all sides of issues before we try to solve any kinds of problems. And that's how we all learn and grow. So I think with these skills in mind, I can apply them and apply my experiences to the role of board and help us move forward for the rest of this year in the best interest of our students. So again, thank you. And that's all I have to say. Now.
Wonderful. Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Jay?
All righty, here we go. So we are voting for Kathy as chair. So at this point, since she's the only nomination, all I need is a yes or a no at this point, okay? So I will be starting with Kim out in Manchester.
I am always first. It's so fun. I approve. Yes, whatever.
Wendy,
Yes.
Dane is absent. Kathy,
I'm going to abstain.
right? Melissa,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
and David.
Yes.
All right, so Kathy is our new chair. We had, I hope I'm counting this right, 10 yeses and 1 abstention. So Kathy, looks like you are our new chair to finish out the school year.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Okay, it looks like I got to take over from here now, right?
Yours.
Okay, so you guys going to have to help me with this.
Of course.
So before we hear the student representative reports, I would just like to give a shout out to the middle school for their 5th grade transition fair. This has been a tradition that has been done at the middle school for many, many years. And I think this year it was a bigger challenge than ever. It's always been a ton of work that the teachers and all the staff and the kids have put into this transition fair. And to do it the way that they did it online this year, it was amazing. I watched it and it just made me want to be back at the middle school. So I just want to really say thank you to Kristen and all the staff for doing such a great job with that online transition fair.
Thank you.
Okay.
So Kathy, just so you know, our middle school representatives are Emma, Cooper, and Rocco. So if you'd like to call on them in any particular order to get them started for the students.
Okay, well, which one of you guys would like to start?
I guess I can.
Okay.
I am Cooper, and since Emma cannot make it today, Rocco and I are going to split up her part of it. So I'm going to talk about school-wide events, what is happening on the Katahdin team, and what has been going on the Acadia team. So over the last month, we've had the Winter Carnival, we've continued the staff college trivia, and in Advisee, we completed the career suggestion surveys through Choices 360, and our new quarter started this week. On Katahdin, they are starting a physics class for the 4th quarter, where they will work on their laboratory skills and problem solving, as well as look at motion, forces, Newton's laws of motion. They have already discussed motion, matter, and mass, how to calculate speed, and the real meaning of velocity. In math, the 6th graders are looking at coordinate planes, specifically the quadrants and what they mean. The 7th graders are looking at unit rate and unit price, as well as using tables, graphs, equations, diagrams, and verbal descriptions. The 8th graders are currently working on the elimination process for solving equations. In ELA, they are continuing work on argumentative writing, where they are working on writing a thesis statement, finding reasoning and evidence to support claims, and writing in the 5-paragraph essay format. They're going to start class reading books in quarter 4. In their UAs, the Katahdin team just finished coding in their See Hope denim art project about being a student in a pandemic, and they've just started health and Spanish. In health, they'll be looking at stress management, healthy and unhealthy relationships, the risks of illegal drug use, and peer pressure. In Spanish, they will compare schools from different countries and look at the similarities and differences between Spanish and other languages. In Acadia, we have Gym and French as our UAs this quarter. And Gym will be learning about health and skill-related components, and we'll be improving our fitness and cooperative skills in COVID-friendly activities. In French, we are learning about the idea of culture and culture shock, and we will be creating slideshows to help define these concepts. On Acadia, we're really excited because we got a grant from the Friends of Acadia to build 2 outdoor classrooms. The team teachers will be having teams of students help build these sites. Volunteers from the community will also be helping build these sites and have already pledged 50 stump stools for the classrooms. The classrooms will play into our science classes and are focused on organisms and ecosystems. We also hope to have professional biologists and scientists join the students later on to assist in fieldwork. In math, the 6th graders have been exploring positive and negative values, and they have been working with number lines and the coordinate plane. 7th graders are beginning work on ratios and percentages, and they're learning how these show up in our daily lives, such as leaving a tip and calculating discounts. And the 8th graders have begun to learn about systems of equations. That is all I have for now.
Thank you, Cooper, for that detailed report. That was awesome. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Cooper? Okay, then we'll move to Rocco.
Hello, I'm Rocco. As Cooper said, we'll be covering Emma's stuff too, so I'll be talking about the Moose Island team, the Royal River team, and the Sebago team. So in ELA, Moose has started their narrative literacy unit. They've been learning how to add interesting and relevant details to their stories. They're also learning how to get more information out of the story by questioning the characters and tone. In math, 6th graders have begun work on expressions and variables. 7th graders are working with geometry to find the area of shapes and sections, and 8th graders are solving systems of equations. Moose has also started their unit on Maine studies. They will be learning about Maine ecosystems and how they change over time. They will also be learning about Maine's history and how it became what we know today. In art, Moose has been learning about how to create neurographic art. They will also be working with the artist Pamela Moulton to learn about textile art. And in Coding, they're working on defining what code is and how it instructs actions in Blockly. Royal River begins the 4th quarter by taking an in-depth look at an actual trial. Students are going to read through the trial script and next look at evidence and see if they can agree on a verdict about it. In one of their core classes, they will be focusing on learning about the supply and demand in economics, inflation and deflation, and as well as basics about how taxes work and credit. We will cash out our stocks from our stock market simulation we started at the start of quarter 3 and see how much our stocks did over the 2 months. In another core class, we're focusing on the invention process and the effects of technology and inventions on society. In an ever faster changing world, it is increasingly important to be on the cutting edge, asking questions such as how do inventors come up with ideas, what processes do they follow, how can ideas be tested? Students will be looking at inventions historically and have the opportunity to build their own as a part of this course focused on the engineering design process. They also have German as their foreign language and music as their UA. For the Sebago team, because of the new quarter just starting, students are getting back into units such as their baking unit, where they've been decorating cakes, and Sebago is also starting up their planting projects this month, and students are designing and experiencing with automatic watering systems as well. And that is all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Rocco, for that in-depth report. Boy, there's a lot of really cool things going on at the middle school, and we thank you for sharing. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Rocco? Okay, great. Thanks again, guys. And now we'll move to the high school reps, which I'm not sure who are the high school.
Yep.
Claire.
Claire and Morgan.
Okay. Are they both?
Hello.
I think it might just be me today. So from Student Senate, we have the Health Center Committee, which has been working on creating a partnership with healthy communities of the capital area to create a vaping and drug awareness curriculum for the high school and maybe other high schools around here as well, if that is successful. The Sustainability Committee is working with the UMaine Mitchell Institute and the Maine DEP to create a composting and recycling program. And this is hopefully going to happen around the same time as the Reedfield Town Recycling Program expands. And they have started planting crops in the garden as well. The Outreach Committee has led another successful food drive in these past 2 weeks and helped raise awareness about food insecurity in the Maranacook district. And Student Voice had to postpone the Student Voice had to postpone the Maranacook Spring Carnival this year due to the closure, but they're hoping to plan it again for May, maybe with some different events. And we're kind of in between sports seasons. Some practices have started and a school has shut down. Sports have stopped again, so I don't have that much news for you on that particular front, but I think we've done a pretty good job transitioning to and from remote learning again, and students are looking forward to April break.
Great. Thank you, Claire, for all that information. So many good things going on at the high school as well, and we appreciate your sharing those with us. Anybody have any questions or comments for Claire?
I do. Hi, it's Patty.
Patty, go ahead.
Actually, Claire, this is for you, but also for Rocco and Cooper. And I just want to say that I know it's a lot of work for you all to get all of this information about everything happening in the school, in your school, on top of what you are doing yourself at school and out of school. And it is awesome for us because the way we can get our, finger on the pulse of what's going on is by what you say. And you say so much, and you all three are so eloquent and well-spoken, and it's just great. So thank you for all your hard work.
Anyone else? Okay, so do we have any citizens' comments about anything that's not budget related?
So very quickly, for any citizens that are online, if you could signal in the chat box at this time, Diane McGregor will monitor the chat box and facilitate you helping to do public comment. So Kathy, if I can just ask you to, we'll wait for Diane's cues here.
Like to give a little wait time, but it looks as though there are no comments at this time.
Thank you, Diane.
Okay, thanks, Diane. So are there any additions or adjustments to the agenda by any board members or by the superintendent?
I'd like to, I don't know if it maybe for tonight or, I know, Jay, you touched upon it in your report, but the additional money that the school is getting, it says our application was approved, and I was wondering if we could get some more details on what that's going to look like.
Yep, I can absolutely send that out to you. It would be easier for me to send out a little report to the board, and I can include it in these minutes so that everyone has it, and I can do that for you tomorrow, probably tomorrow afternoonish, if that's okay.
I guess more specifically the summer school, because I did hear from a couple parents, it's just in my circles. I was out last night collecting my school board signatures and ran into some parents, the summer school especially, because parents are planning their childcare for the summer and they'd hate to have their student miss out on that opportunity. So I did hear that when I was out collecting signatures last night.
Well, and I can give if it's okay with Kathy, I can give a quick update on where we are in planning summer programming, if you're okay with that.
That's fine. If everyone else is okay with that. Is that okay?
Yep. So we've had 2 meetings at this point. We are looking at the month of July. We're looking at a 3 to 4 day 3 to 4 days a week. We're looking at morning sessions. We haven't defined that out yet. I sent a survey out to staff on Monday to see what we had for available staff and got a really good response. Being very honest, it was much better than I expected. We're meeting, I believe it's again I want to say Tuesday, to finalize and get kind of everything written out so that we can put it out to parents. I did reach out, Sean, to a couple of places to see, like I reached out to Steve Bosa to see if there was a way we could coordinate times to potentially work with the camps that run here on the Marana Cook campus. I also reached out to Micah just to see what what it looks like for them as well. So it's all in the planning stages, but I'm hoping next week to be able to put something out for the very reason Sean just said, so that parents can have something in hand and kind of see the parameters so that they can make decisions for their children. So we are working on it, and I expect to have it out next week. So
Thank you.
yes, absolutely. But I will also get you the rest of the details on the other parts of the grant.
Okay, anything else? Any other additions or adjustments? Okay, so moving on to reports. So we have the reports in our packets, and if anybody has any questions or any comments about any of the reports, now would be the time to say so. Anything? Hearing nothing. Okay, then we'll move on to the committees. So the committees that are listed here on your agenda are mostly all upcoming meetings. The facility and transportation next meeting is on the 13th. Rebecca, is there anything that you want to say about that, or are we just going to wait till after that meeting, or?
I don't have my board report in front of me, so I'm not really prepared to say anything. And I can't really remember what we talked about now.
Well, it's the next meeting anyways, but I'm just saying that's coming up. So that'll be on the 13th. And then the health advisory is in May, and the policy committee. Patty, is there anything about that you want to say? That's on the 27th.
I think just that you see in the board packet that there are policies for your perusal. And if you guys have comments or suggestions, it would be great if you let any of us on the policy committee know, because there are a number that are in the packet for second read. So that'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you, Patty. And then the Awesome Bear Society is meeting. And Betty, I'm just wondering, we were wondering if there's any update on the courtyard project. Do you have any?
We had an update at the facilities committee last time. And I too am not prepared to to say anything about that. But they have been doing a fundraiser. They've been selling socks, and hopefully there will be some sock days coming up to go with that. If you haven't bought socks, if you know if your child's on a team or you know a coach, contact them, because it's either closed now or will be closing very, very soon.
I did get a message that they're on their way. The socks are on their way to be delivered.
Okay, so they must have been, yeah. I haven't been able to attend meetings because their meetings have been on negotiation nights. So.
Okay, well, thank you. I just was just wondering.
Kathy, is it okay if I just let everyone know that the courtyard project, they are looking to actually break ground during April vacation. So they are looking to actually start some work here. And a lot of that's weather dependent, but I know they have some equipment that they were renting and lining up, and a couple of contractors and such. So if the weather holds and everything is good, they're actually going to start some work down there during April vacation. So exciting.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jay. Okay, so we'll move on to the action items now. So the first one is approval of the minutes from March 17th. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve. Rebecca.
Second.
Any discussion? So Jay, do you want to do the roll call?
Sure. Kim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Dana's not here, Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa,
Abstain.
thank you, Alex,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
and Sean,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
and David.
Yes.
All right, minutes passed with one abstention.
Okay, so the next one is acceptance of donations. Do we have a motion?
I move to accept the donations as listed.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Jay, you want to do the
Sure.
roll call?
Kim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
and David.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Okay, so the next one is the acceptance of a resignation of our Director of Curriculum. Do we have a motion?
I move to accept the resignation with regret.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Is there a way, if we voted down, that we can get her to stay?
I don't know. I'd like to. I would just like to thank Nancy for all the hard work that she's done and how she's moved us forward in the years that she's been here, and her leadership has been very helpful in getting us to where we are today. So thank you very much, Nancy. Anyone else? Any other discussion?
Can Jay or she give us a reassurance that things will continue in good directions?
Yes, I don't mean to speak for Nancy, and Nancy, I certainly invite you, if you'd like to say a few words, to do that. I've already talked with Nancy. She will be around, and she is going to help us out as we transition over to a new person. Obviously, after we get this resignation, we'll start to work through the hiring process. But Nancy has assured me she will help us through that transition process and be available for us, which I am very, very grateful for. So I am a lot like you guys. I hate to see her go, but I also know it's an opportunity for her to start a new chapter in her life and start some new adventures. And I think we're all a little jealous too. So Nancy, would you like to say anything?
I'm good, thanks. Thank you very much for the kind words. New chairperson of the board, I think that's great, and I really appreciate it, and other members that spoke up, and I will definitely miss this challenge, but the last 2 years have been a little over the top, and so it was really helped me make the decision that maybe enough is enough.
Okay, thanks, Nancy.
Thanks.
So Jay, you want to go ahead and do the roll call?
Sure. Kim?
Sorry, yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes, with regret.
Melissa?
Yes. Sorry. Barking dog. Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
And David?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay. So the next one is a consideration of the revised school calendar specifically for the graduation date. That's right, Jay, isn't it? It's just for the graduation date?
Hold on just a sec. Sorry, I apologize. My papers are out of order here now. Right here.
Okay. So the school calendar change for the for graduation date to June 8th, right?
Yes.
That's the only change in the calendar.
That's the only change in the calendar, yes. So, and my memo is there, but we can discuss more after the motion.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Oh,
Okay, discussion? So it was Rebecca and Sean, right? Yeah.
I guess I just have a question, which is similar to what I feel like I always ask about everything, but this looks great. It's really cool that it's getting sorted out in this crazy time. But I want to just make sure, is this change and decision all good with everybody, like the advisors and the obviously the students and parents? Like, I'm sure it's been discussed a lot, but I just wanted some assurance that it had.
yes. Dr. Conway and Tina Brackley have worked with parents, advisors, students, so that we could get to a place the students really wanted to have a more normal graduation. So I think that was the impetus for reaching out to the Civic Center and seeing what dates they had available. And then we had to look and see, obviously, if that would fit within the statute of when students could, get done, because they can get done 5 days ahead of everybody else. And we were lucky enough that the Civic Center was available on June 8th. And we know it's a Tuesday, but we're all compromising right now, so that seemed like a good trade-off. I don't know, Dr. Conway, I believe, is on the line. Dr. Conway, would you like to say anything?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Just like you said, we've had a lot of conversations. Students were very positive about it, and throughout the whole process expressed that most of all they wanted to be able to all graduate together, which we weren't able to do last year, although it was very good last year, and to have as many guests as possible. And this helps accommodate that.
Great. Thank you for all your work on that, Dr. Conway. Any other discussion? Okay, Jay?
All righty. Kim?
Yes, super excited for them.
Wendy?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Gary?
Here. Yes.
David?
Yes.
All right, passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone.
Good. Okay, so the next thing we do, we have some policy second readings, so we have to take each one of these separately. So do we have a motion on the first one? Excuse me.
I move we accept policy BEDL, adjournment of board meetings.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, given no discussion, we will vote.
Kim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
And David?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
So do we have a motion on the second one, which is assignment of students to classes?
Make a motion that we accept JGAB as written.
Second.
Discussion? Given no discussion, we'll take a vote.
Okay. Kim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
and David.
Yes.
And again, passes unanimously.
Okay, and the next item is a COVID data update from Jay.
Yep. So the page 46 through 49 was obviously done before everything kind of exploded last week and into this week. So I'm actually not going to dwell on what's there. That was, like I said, when I put it together for the board packet. So it's about a week and a half-ish old, based on where we are right now. So last week, I did send this out in an email, so I know most people have seen it, but I'll just recap it real quick. Last Friday, we had 54 elementary school students in quarantine. We had 89 middle school students in quarantine, and we had 98 high school students in quarantine. We had 37 staff members in quarantine. We had 3 elementary students that tested positive and 3 high school students that had tested positive, and we had 2 staff members test positive as well. So it was definitely an interesting week last week as everything kind of came down. It ended up, this was obviously of last Friday, we had about 219 students awaiting results of tests, and we had 36 staff members awaiting results of tests. That was last Friday. I did talk with the CDC yesterday morning about outbreak status at Manchester Elementary School and at Marana Community High School. You have to have 3 positive PCR tests within a 14-day period, and they need to be PCR tests. They can't be the rapid tests that you get like at Walgreens. They need to be PCR tests. So we, at that point when they talked to me yesterday, we had in both schools 3 positive PCR tests and 1 probable in both both Manchester and at the high school. So Monday we had 2 cases, 2 more positive student cases, 1 at the high school, 1 at the one at Manchester Elementary School. Tuesday we had 1 positive at the high school and 1 positive at Manchester Elementary School. And we were so close tonight, my nurses started texting me at a little after 5 o'clock, and it was quiet all day long until that point. We have 1 more positive test at the high school, 1 more positive test at the middle school, and 1 more positive test at Manchester Elementary School. So this week alone, we're up to 7 positive cases, student cases. And from what I understand, we're probably going to see more positive cases coming through tomorrow. It seems like obviously something's going around, there's been transmission, and we're dealing with that. It's a really, really difficult time because we are so close to, kind of not having to worry about making schools go remote. And we're having to go remote because people have only had 1 shot. We have huge staffing issues across our schools. I give Mount Vernon and Wayne Elementary School a lot of credit. We've had to juggle a lot of people around, and we've had some staff members step up and say, hey, I'm going, I'll help cover and do what they need to do. But as of yesterday, we had 44 staff members that were close contacts, awaiting test results. The 2 positive cases are in there too. I had a couple of people that have been out for vaccine reactions, and I've had a couple of people because one of our school is closed, they work in another school, they don't have childcare, so we've had a couple of those cases too. So like I said in my report about Kate Taylor, without her, I don't know how we would have kept our schools open as long as we did, quite honestly. So it's a really, really tough time right now. And it's, yeah, so that's kind of where we are. I'm hoping that after the vacation, things will start to kind of get normalized again. Because I feel like most people who have wanted a vaccine as far as school employees go will have been able to have it, and they no longer need to quarantine after they have their second shot. They've got to wait 14 days, but then even if they're exposed, they don't need to quarantine, and that's going to help us tremendously be able to keep schools open. I think I mentioned this before, we have rapid tests at school now, so we will be able to really focus on students and identifying students that may be positive in some way, or we need to take a test so that we can tell parents, you know, what they need to do and how to navigate everything that's going on. But these are our highest numbers. I mean, we're up to almost doubling our numbers. We were at, what, 23 3 weeks ago, and now we're up to almost 40. So it's as far as students go. So it really has me worried there, and I know the impact this has. So asking schools to go remote is not my favorite thing to do right now, because we all know students should be here. So, but in talking with the CDC, you know, they don't make the decision for us, so I very much rely on what the principals tell me about what's going on in the buildings, and our nurses have a really good pulse on what tests look like and what, you know, the connections may be, so that we know what might be coming our way. So, you know, I said I would update every month, so that's kind of my update, and I'm very sorry it has to be such a kind of negative update at this point, but that's kind of where we are.
So thank you, Jay, for all the work that you've done on this, and give Kate our thanks as well for all her hard work. Is there any action that you need us to take on this? Because it was under action items. I don't think there was, but.
At this time, I would recommend, I mean, there's a couple of things that we should talk about, but at this point, I don't think it's the right time to do it. And that could be moving the middle school to a 5-day in-person schedule. They're 4 days right now. We might want to consider that after we get back in May at our May 7 meeting, because we'll have a better idea what it looks like at that point. We were having discussions about how to open our buildings up a little bit earlier to help parents. And that's something the principals are working on. And again, I think it's all about timing. As soon as our cases start to go down, I feel like that's going to be something that we can do also. At this point, I don't really need a board motion on that, but I am going to try to get the doors open a little sooner to help parents with drop-offs and stuff like that. And again, it'll just be around timing right now. So,
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Jay? Okay, so there is one more informational item about an upcoming meeting. The curriculum committee will be meeting on the 28th, and at that meeting, the group of teachers that have been examining math programs will be presenting to the curriculum committee their findings and their recommendations. So that will be an interesting and a really good meeting. Those people have put in so much time and so much work, so I'm excited to hear their findings. That was just information. Okay, so we're on to the budget. So the first thing is to get some budget updates. So we have our packets.
So hopefully you've got your packets. You will see that there should be 3 pieces of paper for you. The first one is the general summary. The second one is, I'm going to walk you through each. I just want to make sure you have them. The second one is the revenue summary. And then the third page is the second draft of the local dollar calculation. So we'll start on the very first page. And again, as I've said many times before.
Jay, do you want me to share the packet?
Do you mind putting up the first page? That would be great. So I'm going to wait for Diane to put that up so people can see it.
Sorry, I thought I had it here. Oh, it's right here. Is it this one?
Yes. Yeah, if you can go back to page 1. Perfect. So as you're looking at this, on page 1, the general budget summary, and again, as I was going to say, Bridget, if I miss anything, please feel free to chime in. So at this point, if you look at I know people kind of drop down to the grand total line. If you go down to the very last line, the grand total line, we were up $349,660.31, which is 1.85. What I'd like to do is share with you how we got to that number first. So we've had some ups and downs in the budgets that we've had to work through. Something that brought the budget down was our Blue Cross Blue Shield number came in. We usually typically budget for somewhere around 10%. Our number came in at 4.2%, so that was a significant savings to us. I will be bringing to you next week the support staff contract, but that has been factored in because we were able to settle the contract, and I'll be bringing that to the full board next week. So that was a little bit of an increase. Propane, diesel, and number 2 heating oil has all gone up significantly. So again, that was an increase to our budget. We are going to plan to pay off 3 leases that we have. We have 1 more year left on them, and we're going to pay for them out of this year's budget. So that has helped to lower it as well. The property insurance that we have to get, that we need to have, that is the one that had increased pretty significantly, and we had told you guys about it, but we actually included it in the budget this time. It went up almost to 20%, so we had to factor that in. NUIA, because the state is going to be using NUIA as their assessment tool, and we already use NUIA, we're actually going to be getting a credit from NUIA that we can apply to next year. So we were able to look at that, and we were able to eliminate NUIA costs. We'll still have NUIA, but we won't have to pay for it next year due to the contract with the state. And that was, again, a reduction in the budget. And then we had some miscellaneous salary changes that we needed to account for in the budget as well. So that brought us to where we are right now at 1.8%. I'm going to come back, and I've got some questions for the board, but before I ask those questions, I'm going to work through the sheets here, and then I'll ask you the questions for your consideration. So Diane, if you can go to the next page, which is the revenue sheet. The change that you'll see there, Diane, if you can scroll down just a little bit more until you see balance forward. Bridget's been able to look at what project kind of forward, what money we'll have left over at the end of the year. So we are going to up that based on the projection forward by $200,000. So we will actually be carrying forward $1 million in this budget, which directly helps the local share when you're looking at that. So if you look at additional dollars, which is right above subtotal property tax revenue, that's where you'll see the changes from last time that take place. The increase or decrease is actually down to $804,000. And then of course you see going across what that totals. So if you add to the little over 3 million, the 800,000, that brings you to the $4,786,000. And then we start to break that out by what is the local share. Due to raising the balance forward, we're actually looking at the only increase that we have on the local side is under the subtotal property tax revenue, that second column, a little over $57,000. That's the net increase to the town. Did I say that right, Bridget? Mm-hmm. That's the net increase to the town that will be shared on the local side. So that has significantly helped us as well. So then the last page that I'd like to you guys to take a look at before we get into discussion is again what it looks like on the local side. So again, please notice that property valuations are what drives a significant part of this formula. So when you're looking at the very first row going across, you'll see at the bottom of that kind of box what the percentage increase is according to property valuation. And you'll see that both Wayne and Reedfield had significant upticks in their valuations. And that's driving a big part of what the numbers are going to look like as you get to the bottom of as you work kind of your way down the page here. Something else that I would like to draw your attention to is 21-22 required mill expectation, which is in the next column down, the second line. You'll see that that's 7.9, and that's set by the state. But if you follow that across, you'll notice that Wayne is actually set at 7.72. That's because they don't receive any money from the state. So their number is, and they're basically paying for all their students. So that number gets set by the state based on their student count. So that's where that adjustment comes in. So you'll look at it and say, well, they're three are the same and one's different. It's because of Wayne has a very different situation. They don't get any money from the state, or we don't receive any money from the state for them. So they use student count, which is the lower number. That's why you see 7.72 there going down. So then, and again, that's a lot of information there. But if you go down to the kind of very bottom, you can see what the local increase will be. That's the third line up from the very bottom, the local increase for 2021. And you'll see numbers in parentheses there. Am I in the right line? I'm sorry.
Well, that's fourth section up.
That's sorry, I'm looking at the wrong section. It's the fourth section up that I wanted to look at. I apologize. So if you look at the total local contribution, and then right under that is the increase or decrease. So our local contribution for the 21-22 is that $13,224,820. That's for the entire district. And then we break it out from there going across. And you can see that what the increase is for Manchester. Mount Vernon is actually looking at a decrease. So the number, if it's in parentheses, means there's a decrease. And you'll see an increase in Reedfield, and then again a decrease in Wayne. when you're looking across that. And then, of course, that number is broken out for you by the local per student account, per student cost for each town as you're looking at it. So that's a lot of information there. I'm going to pause for a second just so people can process that.
Are we allowed to ask questions now?
Sure. Does anyone have any questions? Gary?
So on the revenue area, I thought we were, if I understood it right, Fayette had their own bus and they're going to take over the transportation.
Yes, Fayette takes care of their own transportation. That is
So why
correct.
do we have this 40,000 based up on second line down?
Transportation, you're talking about the, under other revenues, transportation revenue, right?
Yeah.
Can you help me with that?
They can hear me.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm gonna ask Bridget just to take a quick peek at
Yep,
that.
I've got it right here.
Okay.
So that's for a couple different things, Gary. It's not for transporting their students, but we repair their buses. But it's not just, that's not the only thing that goes in there. We also receive revenue when our buses transport summer rec programs in the summertime. And then sometimes some of our students actually raise money to go on field trips that the school is not providing the transportation for. And so we receive revenue for the transportation on certain field trips also. So that's what that $40,000 is for.
Do we use that every year, that 40,000?
Do we receive that every year? Pretty much so, yeah. We might not this year.
Right.
Because this year we don't have any field trips going. But
So on
normally,
the bottom there where it says balance forward, in the notes, it says for summer salaries, which is going to go up 300,000, that whole line. Is that all due to salaries?
no, that's after we've adjusted for summer salaries. We have to accrue summer salaries. So this is basically made up of more anticipated revenue than we originally budgeted for. Most of that was probably in tuition. We have more Fayette tuition students than we originally planned for. And then areas of the budget where we did not expend what we had budgeted. Like, for instance, in transportation, we are down a lot of bus drivers in transportation. Also, we have not spent anywhere near what we normally do on diesel this year because our buses just aren't traveling like they were previously.
Plus we have less buses on the road.
Right, less buses on the road, no field trips are going, very few athletic trips have been going. I have been able to work with the diesel company and they're going to hold that price for us until we use up all the gallons that we had budgeted or had we contracted for this year. So that's going to take us into next year at the current year's rate. And then I was just able to get a smaller contract at the higher rate for the rest of the year next year. So but there's certain positions in the budget that we never filled, like a halftime GT teacher, and there's positions that didn't get filled, and field trips weren't going, so we weren't paying additional money for field trips. So that's what the $1 million comes from. It's more revenue than anticipated and less expenditures than anticipated.
Okay. So the big problem I have with the budget is that we got over $2 million and we used a lot of it for facilities. And when we used it for facilities and we're doing it, you have more money coming in this year, the $960,000. And nowhere on our financials do we even say it because it was given to us by the government. It wouldn't fly in the industrial world to not report that money, because if we don't start writing down where that money is being spent and all the work that John has done on maintenance and everything else, we're going to lose it. And when the taxpayer has to pick up that portion, then 2 years from now, everybody's going to be screaming, and you're never going to get a budget through. Somewhere you got to come in here and those 3 items that we received this year, one was 920 and another 960 and then a 1.4. You cannot let that go and not report it on the financials. And I realize how this came out, all this worked out, and I understand what we got in front of us, but it doesn't tell the picture. And downstream, the school is going to get hurt because we have no record and there's no paperwork to even show it for the public. And you might say, hey, we don't need to do that because it's not required. If the thing was presented in court, and I did this in the industrial world, I would lose my job.
So Gary, I'm sure that Bridget has kept track of all that. I can't imagine.
I understand that, but
So-
it has to be reported to the public.
Right, I think, I agree, but we have to get back to what we're talking about right now with the actual budget that we've got in the information.
But
that
the budget, what I'm trying to say to you is it doesn't have that money.
But that's not part of this budget that we're talking about. So does anyone else have any discussion or anything that they want to ask about what Jay and Bridget just presented?
I do. So how much more do we use? How much? I mean, I get from your presentation, Bridget, and I appreciate that we're carrying over quite a bit more money than we usually do, but how much more? Because I mean, yeah, I get we're talking about this budget tonight, but it's really not a true picture because there's going to be a huge cliff in the next budget because we're carrying over such a big amount of money. And that's my fear. And I guess to Gary's point a little bit, it does go with this budget because I think it's good to know how much is built. I mean, I've been preaching this everywhere when it comes to budgets. We're talking over $2 million. That's taxpayer dollars. And so really the district is going to spend or has spent, I mean, I may be off. It's $2 million on the back of napkin math. We're really spending $21 million. So how much of that is one-time spending and how much of that is built out for the years to come? I think Gary's onto something here. And I think that's why I've always asked, I ask every meeting, where are we spending this federal money? It's great to get that information, but is it one-time spending or is it spending that we're looking 2, 3, 4 years out to continue on? Yeah, it's only a 1.5, whatever, it's a small increase. But that's because we're able to carry $1 million over. We're not always going to be able to carry $1 million over. So how much bigger is that carryover amount than normal? I think that I'd like to know.
It is larger. For many years, we were usually only carrying $500,000 to $600,000 over. And some of that was made up of additional balance forward that, above what I had anticipated. Some was additional revenue. From what I anticipated, and some was excess, budgeted money that didn't get expended. So yes, we are about $400,000 over what we normally do, and it's the extraordinary circumstances of what we've been going through that are causing not everything to be expended the way it normally has. And yes, it is. I've told Jay before, I worry about this because there's going to be a time when we spend most of our budget the way we used to, and then we're not going to carry over $1 million, and the only way to make that up is back to the taxpayers. So it is an issue down the road. That's why I don't really like increasing that, but I have to increase it because I have a 3% rule on top of it too. So
No. I want to be clear. I appreciate that work, but I just want to be clear about this budget that and any federal money we get, I'm going to say we need to be really careful that we're only spending it for one-time things, not expanding the baseline.
So Bridget, can you give us that information about exactly where that money has been spent and how it's actually impacted this budget? I think that would be helpful.
I'm trying to think of, not a lot of it has impacted this budget. A lot of maintenance, because a lot of what we did with it so far was stuff that was never even budgeted.
Right.
Putting in the camera systems, putting in the ion filtration system, you know, the remote teachers, the long-term sub, the permanent subs, you know, all the iPads and stuff. That was never even budgeted before. Yeah. And it wasn't actually in some of the plans to ever do. So most everything that we spent was extra over and above what we normally budgeted. Now, a lot of it has been very helpful. I mean, our facilities, between the bond and some of the projects we've been able to do with these COVID grants, have really helped our facilities a lot. It's also really helped our technology in this district a lot. There are a couple things, now that I'm thinking of it, we did move a couple things out of this budget into the ESSER, but it is one-time expenditures. A lot of the networking equipment that Diane is doing. The other one is we did put in a couple $100,000, it might have been $300,000 in the ESSER 2 for the some payments on the next generation of MLTI or whatever it is going to be, computers for the elementary teachers and then our 6th graders and our 9 through 12 students and teachers at both of these facilities up here. So those things we did move out of this budget into that. The networking is a one-time thing. The laptop lease purchase would help us for 2 years. So, and depending on, you know, we just got notice of another grant that we have not even, I don't think Jay has formalized exactly how that one's going to be used yet. So, but we have not put a lot of things into the grant that are long-term to be carried on afterwards.
So like in the first ESSER grant that we got, we used that money right at the very beginning to pay for the school nurse that we have out in Mount Vernon and Wayne, and we hired saying that that was a 2-year position. So at the end of those 2 years, that was this year and it's going to be next year, we're going to have to make a decision. Do we carry on with that or do we? But they were hired with the understanding it was a 2-year position. So we've been very cognizant of not rolling a lot of positions into this. I've been cautioned with that all the way along from MSSA to MSMA to MSBA. They have really, it's really the point that Sean's making, that they're saying there's a financial cliff coming and you need to be very cognizant of that and be very wise about how you're using your funds. So we've stayed away from that. We do have in the ESSER 2 the positions for the literacy position for Wayne Elementary School, and that would move from a half-time position to a full-time position. And again, we're looking at that as a 2-year move at this point, and we'll have to evaluate at that time if we want to continue with it or not. So we're, you know, as we're doing this, we're being very cognizant of trying to, if we're going to hire someone, they're going to the place where there's the highest need, and we're giving them a time frame of how long that position is going to last. So those are the only kind of 2 things I can think of right off the top of my head that are kind of long-term going forward. But again, we try to be transparent. It's 2 years. We know that's what it's for.
So I think, Jay, it would be helpful for all of us, if, and you've already said this, that you're going to do this anyway, if you could just give us a breakdown of where all the money's spent and if those are long-term, short-term, one-time, you know, so that we can get a better idea of, are we going to end up 2 years from now with a big bill, you know, a big cliff that we have to try not to fall off from.
Absolutely.
So are there any other questions or?
So before, because I know you're probably going to want to discuss more, so is it okay, Kathy, if I throw out a couple of questions that I have to you guys?
Yep, I was just going to see if there were any citizen comments before we had any further board comments. But that, either way, it's fine.
I'll follow your lead. I'm good with that.
Are there any citizen comments about or questions regarding the budget?
And again, if there's citizens out there and you'd like to, please signal Diane McGregor and she'll help facilitate that for us. So we'll wait a minute or two at least here, if not more.
I've not heard from anyone.
Okay, so we'll go on with our discussions and Jay's questions.
Okay, so a couple of questions that I have for you guys that will help me kind of finalize what that number needs to look like going forward. And just looking for a little bit of guidance from the board. So I have a couple of questions for you. The first, I can still work to reduce that $349,000 or $349,000. I have a couple of places that I can move those things into. The first one is we left in the budget the computers for teachers in grade 6 and 9 through 12. I can actually move that into the new ESSER 3 funds that we will be getting. I just don't know if we want to do that or not. That's one of those kind of cliff things that I worry a little bit about. Do we want to leave something in the budget for it or not? But that's, you know, about $83,000 I could move out and reduce the budget even more by taking that purchase and putting it in the next ESSER 3 funds that we will be able to apply for in mid-May. I could also move the tier 3 positions, which will amount to about $89,000. But again, that's moving those positions. They're in the budget right now. This gets a little complicated, so I apologize. We received a tier 3 innovative grant to pay for those positions, but we're paying for those positions in this year and part of next year. So we left the money in the budget because there's no guarantee that we will get year 2 of that innovative grant. It's supposed to be for 3 years. They're only guaranteeing 1 year at a time. So we have the fund, we figured we better leave the money there in case we don't get the next round of funding for that. But these are the type of positions that I could put in the next round of the ESSER 3 grant. I could put those positions in there. Again, there's pros and cons with that. The pro being we can reduce the budget right here. The con being what several of you guys have already talked about. What does that mean down the road? Do we just say it's for 2 years, call it good, and then have to reevaluate? And then I am working on the elementary. There's a request from Manchester Elementary School for an additional teacher. We've been working for 2 weeks trying to nail down numbers at the elementary schools between people that went to homeschooling and may come back to school. We've also, I've asked them to reach out to the at-home supported learners to see what their plans are. Are they coming back to school? Where they're going next year. And one of the things that we're really having a struggle nailing down is what pre-K to kindergarten numbers look like. Our pre-K numbers are very low this year, but I think when we're back in session, we're going to see an increase. But getting those numbers, a lot of those people are not in our system right now because they just chose not to come to school. So we're trying to nail down those numbers to see if we actually need another teacher in Manchester, or if there's the potential to shift some of our staff around to be able to cover if there's an additional need in Manchester. So we're trying to look at that as well. And then the fourth and final thing that I have is that we said we would leave in the budget and is the 2 middle school team leader positions. And that's almost $5,000. I know that's not a huge chunk of money, but every little bit helps. So I guess I just am looking for some guidance. Do you want me to move computers into the ESSER funds? Do you want me to move the tier 3 positions? I'm going to keep looking. I'll report back to you guys next week. We will kind of, I think, have a firmer number on if we need that elementary teacher in Manchester as an extra position. And then do you want to keep the middle school team leader positions in there? So those are kind of my outstanding questions going forward for you.
So is there any discussion on any of this? Jay, how much, or Bridget, how much is the elementary teacher if we add another teacher? What's the price tag on that?
I'm estimating about 65,000. I estimate like a master's with 10 and then an adult with child family or adult with child health care. So I try to do middle of the road on both of those. So I estimate about 65,000.
Okay.
I saw David's hand up.
Oh, David, sorry.
Yeah, on the idea of a cliff and the computers, it seems to me that whether we pay for the computers with our budget or with ESSER grant, when we need to get new ones or additional, that will happen either way. So if we can use the grant to save the town some money right now, my initial thought is I'd like to save them whatever we can. And yes, they and we will have to deal with it later, but we'll have to deal with it later anyway with some of these things. So why not get some more help now while we've got it?
Sean?
Yeah, I would agree with that when it comes to the computers. I mean, I think what I'm talking more about a cliff is when it comes to staffing, adding additional staff. I was in a meeting this morning where there were some school districts that were talking about, and I'm not saying this was a part of our plan, but adding all these additional teachers to try to help with things. And I'm like, once you add teachers, it's hard to cut teachers. People get comfortable. So I think things when it comes to computers and stuff like that's a little different because you have to buy those anyway. So I think we should use the grant money for things like that. And I guess, Jay, when it comes to the team leaders, if you think those are needed to help things run smoothly, I would say leave them, but I'll just take that advice. I guess I asked that question of you.
And just to answer that very quickly, Sean, Kristen and I have had several conversations, and those people we've got staff members that have been doing this without getting a stipend, and they have been extremely helpful. So I'm using Kristen's guidance when it comes to, it would just be nice to recognize their hard work, with the stipend, because they are contributing members to the team, so.
And I would say leave it, but that's just my.
You guys be silent first. Sorry, telling my kids to be quiet for a second. Yeah, I would just say that the 2 staff members have gone to nearly every meeting, and it's been invaluable having them there. One of them's our tech person, and it's just been huge. So it'd be really good if we could keep having them.
Thanks, Kristen.
I agree with what Sean just said, agreeing with David about the computer money could, well, I agree with what David said, and that I think that I totally understand this idea of a cliff, and I think that Gary's idea of making it transparent to the public what we're going to do with the ESSER grant money is really a good idea. But I also think that we're going to have to deal with whatever is happening each time there's a budget season, and that we should put the $83K for the computer stuff into the ESSER grant. and keep the middle school team leaders for the reasons that Kristen and Jay just said. And I don't know what to say about the Manchester teacher, so I would defer to whatever Abby and Jay say about that, I guess, because I think we can't really know with the numbers being fluctuate, but with such uncertainty in the numbers. But I think, I feel like we have to leave it. I don't know. And, but I did have a question about the tier 3 positions. What are the tier 3 positions? That was the 89,000 you said, Jay, that could be moved into the ESSER grant. But, because I think what Sean's saying about things moving like the computers is really different than people moving, funding people. And I just didn't know what the tier 3 positions were.
So tier 3 position, we got identified with tier 3 in Mount Vernon and Wayne like a year and a half ago. That just goes to show you how off things are right now. But it was like a year and a half ago and everything stalled out. And we got a state coach assigned to those 2 schools that work to, and the whole idea is to work on student achievement and the culture within the school around student achievement. We got approximately, I'm going to say $20,000 per school. Am I right, Bridget?
We received $20,000 per school for planning.
Right.
Okay. And so that's teachers and the principals and Nancy have been working after school, putting in extra time to work on some of their issues. The tier 3 positions that Jay's talking about have to do with the innovative grant that Nancy and Janet wrote. And like Jay said, it's a 3-year grant. So it already has started this year. And then it's even though it's a 3-year grant, they'll only guarantee you the first year's money. And so that's why we've left it in. What that is covering is 100% EdTech 3 to do math intervention in Mount Vernon, and to cover basically the other half of the Wayne. We already have a half-time math interventionist at Wayne, and this would make her a full-time math interventionist at Wayne. So that's what that would cover. So it would be covering that half a teacher and a whole EdTech in next year's budget.
Thank you.
And it's a weird way that they do their accounting system. We actually, quote unquote, run out of money. I think it's at the end of September for that first year of the grant. 30th. Right. It ends September 30th. So that's why we're putting funding for the positions to finish out the school year, because we just don't know if we're getting the grant or not. But again, those could be put into the ESSER fund. They would fit very nicely around student achievement and learning loss. So it would be a natural fit, to put it in that ESSER 3 grant. And we could also get the money for year 2. So it's uncertain as to how it's all going to play out here, I guess. Yeah.
Jay, those positions, are they more necessary now because of remote learning? And is there a good possibility that those positions would not be needed at 100% in upcoming years?
Yeah, I would say we need at least 2 years of those positions being full-time. See, again, these are positions, how do I want to say this? Across our schools, we have interventionists and ed techs, but due to the size of some of our other schools, specifically Mount Vernon and Wayne, we've made those half-time positions. Well, what we're finding right now is that there is a high need, that there's learning loss, there's a high need. Students need more support right now, and having someone who can only dedicate half their time, because the other part of their time they're in a class, they're running the classroom, is really difficult right now. We're seeing more and more needs across our students the longer this goes. So looking at next fall, we want to hit the ground running, have a full day, have full-time people, have extra support. It's going to take a couple, 2-3 years potentially to recover that. It's not something that's going to happen in 6 months or even 1 year. So there's a high demand, even though they're small schools, there's a high demand.
If those positions are specifically connected to COVID, are needed specifically for COVID, then I would say move them to the ESSER grant. If they're more needed because of COVID.
I actually disagree. I think if it sounds like we're going to need them for as long term as Jay is mentioning, then we should keep them in the regular budget so that we have already planned for it for years 2 and 3.
I agree with you, Kim, because if we put it into the ESSA grant, it's just next year, and we're going to need them longer than just for next year. So I think we should keep that in the budget.
Some of the other positions that have been put into the previous grants are for more than 1 year, though.
Right. Yes.
And this could be a 3-year grant, right? And this is finishing up the first year, so there's 2 more years if we get that grant money. So that's that big if.
And the ESSER 3, I believe will have up to 2 years to use that money.
Okay.
So just, for a frame of reference there.
For the next 2 years?
The next 2 years, right. This ESSER 3 will basically go into effect next year and the year after. Yeah, we'll have to spend. It's a tough call either way. That's why I just thought I'd get a weigh-in from the board on.
If we keep them in the budget and that grant comes through as it should, although it's not guaranteed, then the budget would be relieved of that next year. So it would help us with rollover next year or meeting other needs next year. Is there just a side question related to that sort of stuff? Is if we put them in the ESSER, do we endanger the grant that would have paid for them?
No.
Okay.
No. If we get the Tier 3 innovative grant, automatically that's where those positions are going to go. So, yeah. So we basically can put them in either spot, but if we get that'll mean I can spend ESSER funds on something else if I use the innovative grant, should we get it for year 2. And the other thing that we can do is we can put it in the ESSER fund, take it out of the budget, put it in the ESSER fund, and then if we get it, I can always rewrite the ESSER fund to use that money in a different way, and we can still pay it out of the innovative grant. So I hope that made sense.
Jay, can I just say something really quickly? This is Janet.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The innovative grant that Bridget talked about and Jay's been referring to for the tier 3 is if we get the additional year, we have the first year. If we get the additional year or 2, we do have to use it the way the grant is written for. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
And that's those positions, right? That
correct, because that's how we wrote the grant out, and that's what the grant is. They agree, they approved the grant on.
Right. So I think what I'm hearing is move the computers to the ESSA, right? I'm looking to see people's reaction. I can only have 3 people, but I don't know yet about what we decided on the tier 3 positions. I think we need to wait on the Manchester edition till we have more information, and then keep the team leaders in the budget. So back up to the tier 3 positions. I guess I've heard that we could either way. I don't think we've had a consensus on which way to go with that one. Because it seems like it's going to be the same amount of time either way. I mean, it's 2 years if we put it in the budget and get the grant, or it's 2 years if we get the ESSA grant. But I think we just need to make sure that it is 2 years because we're going to need it. And then I would go with what David said, at the end of those 2 years, we would have to reevaluate. Do we still need those positions? And if we do, then we'd have to put them in the budget then. What's your pleasure?
I'll move it to the grant.
Think we should move it to the grant?
Yep.
Jerry?
Yes.
We
Grant?
may need a vote.
Let's do a, want to do a consensus? Or do we want to do a vote? Oops.
I don't think we need a vote.
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
Move it to the grant. Let me see thumbs for move it to the grant. Diane, can you see people? Because I can't. Oh, I think I saw David's thumb go down.
Where am I? Does this thing have to?
Go on the other side. Wendy's trying to put a thumb up.
I put a thumb up.
David, I think you were the only one with the thumb down. So what would make it palatable to you? Can't hear
That
you.
was fine. If it's the majority, I'm happy with it. It's okay. It's not a big, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, and I'm fine with it.
Okay. All right. So we're going to put that one in the grant. Right? Did you get that, Jay?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Do you have any other questions or anything for us about this? Or does anyone else have any discussion? I actually did have one question about transportation, Jay. At one point, I think it was in February, you had mentioned something about the preschool only going 2 full days a week instead of 4 half days to save on transportation. Where is that discussion now?
So we're actually, Nancy's actually been talking to the pre-K teachers, and their general feeling is they would prefer, they think it's better for the students to go with the 4 half days, return to the old schedule, which is what we are planning on right now. I certainly, if you guys would like, we kind of had planned on asking them for a little feedback and bringing it to you guys, actually probably next week. But if you guys are okay with me moving it back to 4 days on the advice of the teachers, that's absolutely what we'll do. I won't belabor this point any longer. In transportation, we've been able to work that out. So I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up. So okay.
My thumbs up too.
Yeah.
Okay. I just was wanting to make sure that we were clear on that.
Oh, I do have one more question. I apologize. I skipped over it. We had John Harker who made a request of the board about a $5,000 request to work on the health curriculum, specifically around nutrition. We've had a couple of health meetings, and Nancy and I have had some conversations and stuff. We've got a lot of things that are kind of more pressing right now, and I don't mean to say in any way that the health curriculum is not important, but I do know that the state will be coming out with some new standards. It would seem to me to make sense to wait a little bit longer, continue with our integrated approach that we're using. Once we get updated standards and learning results from the state, then we could start a review of that health curriculum and look how nutrition is embedded within that curriculum. So I'm at this point asking the board if you guys, I know the question was asked directly of you guys. Nancy is here, she can kind of back up if I missed any point here. But if you guys are okay, I am not looking at this point to put $5,000 into the budget for an outside consultant to work with us on health curriculum when we're awaiting updated results, and we have kind of reading and math are kind of the priority right now. So you know, we do have things in place about the middle school and high school. There are things that are there. I know Jeff Bridges did a lot with the farm to school program. I'm looking to get Jen Hall involved with that. So again, we can start to bring back some of the things that slipped off the table, and that gives us a little time to get the updated results from the state and then start a more comprehensive review at that point. So I just want to make sure the board is okay with that because the question was asked directly to you guys. So
Any comments on that?
I think that sounds like a really good plan.
So do I.
I agree.
I'm fine with the plan, but I think we ought to let him know or just keep it in mind if that's where people are thinking that once we get those updates, part of the process will be to consider seriously whether that consultant is going to be a helpful part and to make sure that it is the updated curriculum is going to happen, and it's going to happen as soon as we get the updates and stuff.
Yep. I will absolutely reach out to Mr. Harker and talk this through with him and keep him involved. He's actually been very active with our health councils, and I'd like to continue that. So it's been a very positive relationship. So I want to continue that and definitely keep him in the fold and let him know what we're thinking. So I'm going to reach out to him.
Sean?
We had talked about, I don't know, a few meetings ago about transportation issues and finding ways to address that. I mean, let's just be honest, we can barely get kids to school now with transportation. And I know we want to concentrate on reading and math and stuff, but if we can't get them to school, that's going to be a big issue. So has there been any more thought about that, Jay, on how to attract bus drivers? And, I know we talked about maybe adding some money into the budget for stipends or trainings or stuff like that. I just don't want to start the school year back off where we are now.
Our new transportation director will be coming in shortly. And Bridget and I have already talked a little bit based on what our numbers are, and good news, we might have a new bus driver that'll be able to start right after April vacation, so cross our fingers here again. We talked a little bit about could a stipend be supported within the budget that we currently have? Could we work with Steve Bose, and I've already had several conversations with him about the idea of getting involved in us paying for training and stuff like that. Our budget can support it, and I don't think we need to add additional money in. I'm going to work with Kelly Thompson when she comes on board and ask her to bring, as her first meeting with you guys, which will probably be either in May or the beginning of June, bring a concrete proposal before you guys so that you can see what we're doing over the course of the summer to try to be more fully staffed come when the school year starts in August or September there. So I'm trying to kind of get her involved in that as well.
Okay. I appreciate that work. And if you're comfortable, we can do that. I just don't want to be in a position where things are back. I hope 100% where we can have sporting events and music events and we can't do it because we don't have drivers, and we didn't, it kind of fell by the wayside, because I think that the transportation plays a huge part of this card.
Yes, absolutely. No, we'll come back with I have some ideas, talk to Kelly. I'd like, as the transportation manager, first time she meets you guys, to be able to put, a proposal of what we're thinking about right in front of you guys. I think that's going to be right in her wheelhouse. So I'm excited by it, and we definitely need to get drivers. So.
Okay, thanks, Jay. Is there anything else? Any other questions, comments, anything for Jay about the budget?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Hearing none, I make a motion or second Gary's motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.